Welcome to The Happy Writer, a show about creating and sustaining a long-term author career. My name is Patty Jansen, writer of science fiction and fantasy. I've published independently since 2011. This show covers motivation, diversification, learning new skills, and your place in your career. Come on in and be happy. In this episode of The Happy Writer, I want to talk a little bit about reviews. Those of you who have known me for longer will know that I tell a lot of writers who are anxious about their reviews not to look at them, but that doesn't mean they're entirely unimportant or have no use. But there is little in the author journey that evokes as much anxiety as reviews. There's someone else's judgment on your baby. They're being touted as the make or break must-have for books. If you get a bad review, this can sink your career, so some would have us believe. Let's unpack and defuse this a little. The first thing you have to realize is that reviews are not about or for you. They're for readers. If there are any readers describing certain events or elements in your story, that can be quite helpful for other readers to decide whether or not they're going to like your book. Not all readers will look at the reviews, but quite a few will at least look at how many there are. So reviews tell another story. How many people are reading your book? The most important aspect of reviews is that there are some, and yes, the more the better. The actual content of the reviews doesn't matter all that much, unless many of them mention the same thing. Many authors worry far too much about one-star reviews, but the fact is that some of them are plain ridiculous. Some readers even use one-star reviews to indicate books they haven't yet read, so they don't always mean that the reader didn't like the book, not at all. Those readers will probably come back to those books and change the reviews later. Sometimes the reviews are for the wrong product or the wrong book, or they mention certain things that they don't like in the book, but that are just part and parcel of the genre. Romance authors get one-star reviews complaining about romance and sex in their books, and military science fiction books sometimes get reviews about there being too much shooting. Yes, ridiculous. It really doesn't matter. A certain percentage of your reviews will be irrelevant or nonsensical, full of bad spelling. But you know what? Readers are not nuts. They can figure this out for themselves. That's the first thing I'd like people to take away from this episode. As an author, you should worry a lot more about the number of reviews than about their individual star rating. Every reader who cares about reviews probably first looks at the one-star reviews. They're entertaining because many of them are so ridiculous. And also, if there are any problems in the book, this is where they will show up. If you don't like the overall star rating, it's up to you to get some more reviews. But getting reviews can be quite hard, especially when you're a new writer and you don't sell particularly well. As an author, how should you go about getting these elusive reviews? The best way, of course, is to sell more books. Failing that, give away books. You can give away books in return for a review. You can also get reviewers from your mailing list if you have one. These are the people most likely to post a review because you already have a relationship with them. You can build up a team of regular fans of your work who will reliably post reviews. Authors usually call this an ARC, Advanced Reader Copy, team. But again, you won't have a group like this when you're just starting. There are Goodreads and Facebook groups where you can give away books for the purpose of getting reviews, or you can pay to have access to a review website's database of reviewers. The site will then put up your book to potential reviewers and they can sign up. Places like Hidden Gems and NetGalley are quite popular. I've never used them and found it better to just casually ask readers for reviews. There are two ways in which you can do this that I've found highly effective. In the first place, you can ask them in the back matter of the book. You give the readers a link that links back to your book on whatever retailer's site they bought it, and then you simply ask if they would like to leave a review. The second way is a very strange thing that I have discovered by accident through a writing friend of mine, Carolyn Gockel. The trick is to thank reviewers on your Facebook page. You don't need to mention the individual reviewers. You just say, "Thanks for the recent reviews I have received on this book." And you might link the book, but just thanking people. Don't mention them by name, and don't quote anything from the review, because it might embarrass people. As a side, I've had this happen to me as a reader, where a well-known author copied my review and put it on his blog, and I never bought anything from him again because I was so embarrassed. Just say thank you to all the recent reviewers without identifying them. I know it sounds very strange, but it works. Neither of these two tactics are very quick, but it's better to be patient and let the reviews build up naturally than trying to goose them with some sort of review surface. In that case, the reviewers are required to put "I received this book in return for an honest review" in the review itself. And if you have a lot of those, it just looks silly because a lot of the readers have no idea what sort of dynamic plays behind the scenes, and they'll just go, "Yeah, right, this author asked their friends." Getting reviews naturally far outweighs anything else. Sell more books, reduce the price, book a promotion, give it away for free. But what to do if you want to book promotional sites and you do not have any reviews? Some of the sites will accept books without reviews at all. The choice is somewhat limited, but you can start by booking those sites. Some other sites will also accept books that are new that don't have any reviews, as long as you have other books in your catalogue that do have the required number of reviews. But if you run out of options, you can always do promotional giveaway swaps with other authors to expand your reach. With all these methods, don't be too impatient. Even if you're using an ARC team, not everyone who downloads the book and agrees to give you a review will do so. In fact, you're probably doing well if about 25% of people do. In general, review averages are considered to be 1 review for every 100 books sold, or 1 for every 1,000 copies given away. Yes, that's not a very favourable statistic, but it is what it is. Ranting about it, holding readers to ransom, or begging only makes you look like an idiot. Be patient. Give away more books. The reviews will come. How should you not be getting reviews? There are also a few things that you shouldn't do to get reviews. The first one of those is to buy reviews. Amazon doesn't look too kindly upon what they call review manipulation. They keep close tabs on suspicious accounts and will ban them when they suspect that the account owners are engaging in dishonest activity. For example, people who put up masses of fake reviews for books they haven't read. This rule is not just about books. It is designed to stop the wholesale trade in positive reviews for sellers of goods, where those reviews are much more important than for books. Don't ever pay anyone to give you a guaranteed positive review or a guaranteed number of reviews. Those are red flags that indicate fishy stuff is happening behind the scenes. Likely the review sellers also have other shady business going on, like guaranteed numbers of sales or downloads, all indicating that they use click farms. Amazon is cleaning house all the time, and if you have paid one of these companies, which they know because of the accounts posting the reviews, you may find that a bunch of them suddenly disappear. You may also find yourself on the wrong end of Amazon's anger. They can, and sometimes do, suspend accounts for review manipulation. But what is the difference between buying reviews and paying for NetGalley, you may ask? You pay NetGalley for access to their database of reviewers, not for the actual reviews themselves. Personally, I don't advocate paying any money for any kind of review, whether honest or not. The reality is that these people are just in it for themselves to get free books, and they did not pick up your book because it attracted them. Secondly, you will sometimes see these bright spark brand new authors who will gather with a group of other new authors who will then all review each other's books and sometimes even buy them. While their heart is in a good place, there are a few really problematic things about this practice. You're probably not likely to lose your account over it, and these people are generally not dishonest or trying to scam you. But supposing you took part in an exchange like this, the group leaders encourage people to be honest in their reviews. But these authors also have a very high opinion of themselves, and many assume that anyone who gives a fellow author a bad review must be a troll, because there are no bad books in the world, right? And all books are good because some struggling author wrote it. So you swap your book with another also in your genre. So far, so good. Then the other author posts a review of your book that is quite glowing. Then you get around to looking at their book, and oh my God, it is terrible. What do? This is honestly a situation you don't want to be in, because you are now in the author's circle with the author of that terrible book. You wouldn't want yourself to be associated with the book, like it might show up in your also bought. But because your book isn't selling terribly well, the retailer algorithms will associate your book with that anyway. You also can't really give the book an honest review because of the culture within the swap for review group. The review that you received may disappear when Amazon finds out about the review group, but it's not terribly likely. They don't really like it when authors review each other's books, but it's not a hard rule, and many times they don't find out. But do you want to have it on your conscience that you had to give a dishonest, glowing review because they gave you a glowing review, and you're now forever associated with a book you don't think is any good? Really, the best reviews are those that are gained organically from readers who had absolutely no involvement with me about reviewing. If you can't get enough readers, you give your books away to people on your mailing list. Don't sweat the return percentage of reviews. Make your book free. Give your book to as many people as possible in your genre. Don't hound them for reviews. Don't push them. Don't pressure them. Simply thank them when they do post a review, and then give the book away to some more people until you have a baseline of number of reviews that you can start running promotions with. Ideally, after you have published a few times, you can form a list of reviewers who are likely to give you a review, and you give them the book before publication so they have time to read it before it comes out. You can then put up the print book live a few days before the e-book live date. This allows them to post reviews, so you will have a few reviews when it goes live. This not only makes your book look good, it's a shield against a 1-star rating. The first few reviews from your reader list should be fairly positive. Once your book goes out in the wide world, especially if it's the first book in a series and it's heavily promoted, you can expect some reviews from people who didn't like it. Don't sweat the star average. It differs between countries, and it doesn't mean terribly much anyway. It is true that some promotion sites don't take books below a certain star rating. Most of them, however, don't have any hard and fast rules. Does this mean that the star rating doesn't matter at all? No, not really, but not always, and definitely not as much as you think. If your book contains any controversial issues, it will naturally attract some poor reviews. You may consider trying to reclassify your book in a different category that makes the objections go away. For example, I have a book that is fairly dark and includes scenes where homosexual sex is implied. I moved this book from epic fantasy to dark fantasy, and also in the LGBT category, although there really isn't anything about gay relationships in it. The book was featured on BookBub while it had something like 120 reviews with a 3.4-star average, and I have now brought it up to 4-star average just by moving it to a different category. You have to target your book to the right audience, because otherwise it can cause bad reviews. On the other hand, if your book star average is consistently poor, it would pay to have a look at the reviews to see if they mention any common issues. A few years ago, these reviews used to often mention poor spelling when they meant that they were not used to the letter U in color. You don't get this quite as much anymore. But if you find an issue in your reviews that keeps coming up, you might try to do something about it, because there is obviously a mismatch in what the reader thought they were getting and what they eventually got. You might be able to fix most of the issue by changing your cover or your categories. Sometimes new writers publish their books before they're ready. They hadn't learned the details of plotting and writing on a scene level. If you breach any of the 3 rules, don't annoy the reader, don't bore the reader, and don't confuse the reader, you will definitely find out in your reviews. It's impossible to always please everyone, but if there is an issue that gets mentioned a lot in your reviews, you should probably do something about it. The good thing is that we can do this, even though ideally you should do this before the book appears in public and you've asked people to pay money for it. But I understand why this sometimes doesn't happen. Lastly, I would like to say that no author career was ever ruined through a bad review. There is only one thing that will ruin your career if you stop writing and caring about your books. Nothing else. You don't like the reviews? Reclassify, fix issues, and pile on more reviews. Getting reviews becomes increasingly easier once you have more books out and sell more. Thank you for listening to the Happy Writer Show. Check out links and other episodes on my website at pattyjansen.com and my YouTube channel.